You walk into a party, and within 4 minutes, you already know. You know who's arguing on the inside but smiling on the outside. You know which couple is 3 weeks from a breakup. You know that your friend's "I'm fine" is not fine, not even slightly, and that the new colleague who laughs the loudest is trying the hardest not to be seen. You didn't mean to know any of this. You weren't looking for it, but there it was. And then comes the part nobody warns you about. You can't unknow it. You sit there with a glass of something and carry all of it, alone. Because if you say what you see, you're too much. You're projecting. You're reading into it. So you smile. You hold it. You file it somewhere behind your eyes, and you keep moving. I remember sitting in a work meeting once, watching someone pitch an idea they clearly didn't believe in, and I couldn't focus on a single slide because I was too busy watching their left hand. Here's what this isn't: a video about being an empath, a gift, or a superpower. We're not here to put a label on it. We're here to understand exactly how this radar works, and why the people who see the most are usually the ones carrying it alone. Because it turns out there's a very specific reason your brain does this, and an even more specific reason it won't stop. Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain. First, threat detection is older than language. The human nervous system evolved to scan for danger before the conscious mind even wakes up. For most people, that system runs in the background, a quiet alarm that only goes off when something is obviously wrong. For people with hyperactive social scanning, it runs on full volume, all the time. Every micro-expression, every half-second pause, every word chosen over a slightly different word, all of it goes in. This is sometimes called hyper-vigilance, and it doesn't originate in your personality. It originates in your nervous system, the one that was built before manners existed. Second, pattern recognition and working memory are operating on overdrive. Neuroscience has a name for this. It's related to what researchers call salience network dysregulation. Basically, the brain's priority filter is stuck on "everything is urgent." The result is that you don't miss anything, which sounds useful until you realize the brain wasn't designed to process that much social data simultaneously. It's not sharper perception, it's more perception, without a filter. Third, there's a concept in social psychology called the accuracy-likability trade-off. Studies consistently show that people who are better at detecting deception are rated as less socially comfortable to be around. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because accurate perception makes other people feel seen in ways they didn't consent to. You become a mirror people didn't ask to look in. Put all three together: a nervous system that never stopped scanning, a salience detector that can't triage, and a social environment that quietly punishes you for seeing clearly. Now that we understand the mechanics, let's look at what this actually costs on a regular Wednesday. Stage 1. The Cassandra problem. Here's a scene. Your friend is dating someone. Within 2 dinners, you've already filed 17 small things. The way he interrupts her mid-sentence and then apologizes in a way that's actually about resetting the dynamic, not about the sentence. The way she laughs slightly too fast when he makes a joke at her expense. The 2-second delay before she answers when you ask if she's happy. You know what's coming. You can see it like a slow-motion film. So you say something, carefully, once. She says you're overthinking it. He's great. You just don't know him well enough yet. 18 months later, she's crying at your kitchen table. This is the Cassandra dynamic. Named after the figure in Greek mythology who was given the ability to see the future and simultaneously cursed so that no one would believe her. People with hyperperception live a version of this on a regular basis. The isolation isn't just that you see more, it's that you see earlier, before the evidence is legible to anyone else. And being right later does nothing to ease the loneliness of being dismissed now. Your brain isn't broken, it's just operating on a timeline that the social world hasn't caught up to yet. Stage 2. Risk management as a full-time job. When your radar never turns off, you start doing something that looks, from the outside, like paranoia, but is, from the inside, a very rational response to having been surprised before. You map exits, not just physical exits, social ones. You track who is likely to turn on you, who is performing warmth versus genuinely offering it, which friendships can handle honesty, and which ones require careful maintenance. You develop what feels like a second career, managing other people's perceptions of you, while simultaneously running background checks on their perceptions of everyone else. It's exhausting. Not dramatically, not in a way that's easy to explain. More like running a second browser with 47 tabs open, the one no one else can see, while trying to appear completely present in the first one. Here's what your brain is actually doing. It's treating social connection as a risk management problem, because somewhere along the way, it learned that the gap between what people say and what they mean can hurt you. So now it tries to close that gap in advance, every time. That's not pathology, that's a learned strategy, a very costly one. Stage 3, the loneliness of holding unspoken truths. There's a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't get talked about much, the loneliness of knowing something and having nowhere to put it. You can't say most of what you notice. Say it and you're intense. Ask about it and you're needy. Name it and you're making things weird. So you don't. You carry a running transcript of everyone's invisible interior, and you carry it quietly. What happens over time is subtle but significant. You start editing yourself into a smaller shape. You learn to look less directly. You develop a public-facing version of yourself, one that sees less or pretends to. You become fluent in not saying what you see. And the strangest part? The people around you often sense this. They feel slightly more comfortable and slightly less known. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because the solution isn't what you'd expect. Here's what doesn't help: trying to see less. You've probably tried. You've told yourself not to overthink it, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to let the unanswered text just be an unanswered text, to stop analyzing every pause in a Slack message. It doesn't work, not because you lack willpower, but because you're asking a threat detection system to stand down in an environment it has already classified as requiring surveillance. The thing that does help, and this is backed by research in what's called selective attention training, is something counterintuitive. It's not learning to see less. It's learning when not to act on what you see. Researchers call it strategic ignorance, the deliberate, conscious choice to hold a perception without deploying it. Not denial, not suppression. Not everything you notice needs to be processed. Not everything you see requires a response. Try this. The next time you clock something, the slight edge in someone's voice, the half answer to a direct question, notice it. Acknowledge it internally. Then ask, does this require action right now? Is this a rock in the water? Or is this my nervous system doing its job, and then some? You don't have to stop seeing the rocks. You just have to stop treating every rock as an immediate shipwreck. Which brings us to the reframe. The metaphor that actually fits is this: a lighthouse. Not an X-ray machine, not a lie detector, not a threat detector scanning every table at the coffee shop. A lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't sweep the sea in a panic. It turns, slowly, on its own schedule. It doesn't wreck ships. It finds the rocks and lets the ships decide what to do with that information. Your perception isn't the problem. The setting is. You don't see too much. You just haven't learned yet when the sea is calm enough to stop scanning. What would you do differently this week if you trusted that one person in your life simply meant what they said?